Tlaib from Michigan.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Of course, we heard a lot today from both sides regarding different views for our country. I mean, historically, it's always been the case. But I do want to focus on, and folks know Chair Comer, I think, appreciates it, but I want to get centered to the everyday, daily life of our families at home. You know, I hear a lot of them talk to me about, you know, what are the government's policies affect and, you know, their ability to put food on the table, lights. I think, you know, the cost of utilities is just increasing. I think the cost of water has gone up 400% nationwide. And I always tell people, you know, our families are living check by check, majority. And over 50% of my colleagues are millionaires. They'll really, Democrat, Republican, they'll never fully understand the struggles of many of our families. And, you know, they're in survivor mode. I don't know how to explain it other than like survivor mode. They don't have time to be able to think of how can I thrive. And it's real, like I know we're in this like bubble of Congress, but it's very real out there. So a number of Americans, including many of my neighbors, rely heavily on overtime pay. Ms. Perriman, as you know, to make ends meet. They'll bust their butt. They'll work that 10, 20 hours because they got to get that tire fixed or they got to pay a certain bill that they didn't expect. So I know most, you know, again, members are in an income bracket that's completely disconnected, so they don't understand what that means.
Yeah, that's fine.
But, you know, even with all those hours, sometimes they're not even eligible for like overtime pay. And I am going to talk about, what is it, page 592 of Project 2025, where it says, quote, Congress should provide flexibility to employers and employees to calculate overtime period over a long number of weeks. Sounds great, right? Like, oh, flexibility. But when you actually go look down and implicate, you know, the implementation of it, this means you be forced to work long hours, 1 week, then have your hours dramatically cut later in the month so your boss doesn't have to pay overtime. Is that correct, Ms. Perriman?
It is.
What do you think the impact would be here?
We know it would be devastating, and that's not the only thing that's in Project 2025 that's devastating to working Americans who need to be paid for their work. It also would seek to revise the threshold by which you qualify for overtime, which is something that the Biden-Harris administration through the Department of Labor did revise upward so that more families could be paid fairly.
Yeah, and I know the National Labor Relations Board is incredibly important. Many of our workers are, you know, folks in the labor community. I mean, they really rely, day-to-day workers rely on the establishment of this board to make sure that their rights are protected. You know, even in Project 2025, and the former president, you know, seriously continues to attack, saying that the National Labor Board is unconstitutional, you know, the federal agency that protects rights. I mean, this is literally the federal agency that protects the right to organize and collectively bargain, many of which my colleagues, their parents benefited from that. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of that board?
Yes, absolutely. And Project, I mean, it is incredibly important for the American people and for the fairness of our workforce, for the ability of people to collectively bargain, including in workplaces that are structurally inequitable towards workers. And we do see it attacked not only in Project 2025, but in our courts and in a variety of contexts.
Yeah. And, you know, Chairman Comer, you know this. I mean, Project 2025, we keep talking. I know, I wish we could, Chairman, and I always look at Cummings because we need to make sure that we're not bringing the campaigning inside the Capitol. It's what most Americans hate about Congress. I mean, I think our approval rating is 17%. Honestly, I want to talk about Postal Service, you know that. I want to talk about the cost of insulin, the big pharma. I want to talk about these issues. You know, Project 2025 is scary. It is. As somebody comes from the most beautiful, blackest city in the country, all I keep thinking about is what's going to happen to my neighbors. Working class folks, what's going to happen to them? This is real. It's not something on paper. Implementation-wise, it will be devastating for families. You know, I just think we could do better. I think our families deserve better for our country. We can use this committee for so much more. Thank you so much, and I yield.
May I respond?
Sure.
To my friend,
yes.
Ms. Tlaib. We get along great. Love it. This hearing is about policy. It's a substantive hearing. I think many on your side have made it about this project, whatever it is, that I've never read. The former president said he's never read it.
I know.
And with respect to Postal, we've got that next month.
I know.
DeJoy's coming in, I think, or
Look,
somebody.
you and I could talk about the COVID money, because I want to know where that money is, right? All of us do. We could talk about a lot of those things. But yeah, and Mr. Chair, it's just all due respect. It's just, it's hard for our families to be looking at this committee and just rolling their eyes, and we wonder why the popularity of Congress continues to be reduced.
I respectfully disagree. We published a report last week about $200 billion in unemployment insurance fraud that the administration doesn't seem concerned about. We've talked about $46 billion being spent on broadband that's never connected a single household. So this is we are concerned about waste, fraud, and abuse, and that's kind of what we've been doing this whole Congress.
No, I know. We could do, and I appreciate that committee hearing. I think we all appreciated it, and it was done in a bipartisan way. Thank you again, Mr.
Thank the lady from Michigan.